Hi there, and thank you for clicking on the video. Um, just sort of final thoughts on the year. A lot of people do like a tier list, or they're always fun to do, right? It's like arguing about uh, like your top 10 best basketball players, baseball players. Tier lists are the equivalent for Warframe. But I'm just gonna do like a general year in the review. We're not gonna talk about um, like current events, like in a echo chamber, but just about the year and current status of the game going forward into 2024. Because overall, let's be honest, game's in a pretty good spot right now. Though I'm basically back to time gated content myself, I have nothing to do. For those of you who basically figure out where you are based on MR, we're currently sitting at 4,962 short of Legendary 4. For those of you that are founders, we are seeing LR4s more regularly, not super regularly, but we are seeing them pretty regularly. Shout out to Slinger, he's LR4. I currently am back to a waiting game. Everything's done. Feels good. Also, because it's totally not a sales tactic, by the way, the heirloom collection's going away in 11 hours, 35 minutes. No pressure, totally not a sales tactic, time limited content. Fear of missing out, FOMO, FOMO, FOMO. It will never be able to be purchased again. Totally not toxic, merchandising. But this is going away, so this is kind of where we're at. Let's talk about the year in total, because right now, obviously, the Whispers in the Wall release was done, and things are a little nutty. Melee influence is breaking the game. Mirage is crashing Warframe fairly regularly. Gyre, even Vauban and Ureli are starting to get it a bit. Ureli can use it. Gyre can use it with setups, and Mirage is probably the biggest abuser. Making ranking up super easy. If you are trying to speed level clanmates, talking to the warlords out there, your go-to right now for this week, if you watch this video today, 12/31/2023, your go-to to speed rank your clanmates and alliance mates, if you're feeling generous, should be a melee influence Mirage. Because I am regularly hitting 1,000 kills on round 1 of ESO. So even without, affinity bonuses, you can rank a weapon up all the way to rank 30 in one round, which is pretty nice. If they are running, boosters, you can get 2 weapons done, 3 weapons done in one round because you're basically spawn killing the tile. That's kind of where we're at. Make sure, as a PSA, to not hit the enemy with any electricity procs. Make sure to change all your weapons to raw damage builds, because if you try to hit anything with electricity damage, then influence triggers, you'll crash. So good luck with that. But overall, we've had 2 big updates. Deviri and Whispers in the Wall is kind of the arcs, if you will, for this year. Deviri was a very solid release. Now, whether you like it or not is kind of personal choice. But compared to prior releases, like even the Zeraman, there weren't too many glaring bugs. Obviously, on the circuit, there was the enemy falling into the abyss, basically ruining your circuit run. And then we had the Jackal issue, but those got patched. But overall, Deviri was super nice to play for the first couple of days. But in terms of like repeatable content, I was basically going back for the arcanes, and the Whispers in the Wall basically killed that. Like now that the Incarnon weapons were definitely on the Incarnon meta, um, they're the strongest weapons in the game 9 times out of 10, just because of, raw stats. So it's kind of where we're at going into 2024. Whispers in the Wall was a nice update as well. Very polished. The new tile looks beautiful. Storyline. We're kind of playing, like on my side, we're kind of playing like name where they got that reference from. Seeing where they actually like got inspiration from some of this stuff. Uh, and it's more of we know Whispers in the Wall was more overall in terms of its purpose of like a setup and a teaser for Warframe 1999. But overall, in itself, Whispers in the Wall was a solid release questline wise. I thought it was a little short, but it is what it is. You can get it done in a couple hours, half-assing it, but the questline was good. I didn't hear anything bug-wise that was ruining the experience. And the past couple of releases, questline-wise, haven't really had any major, commonly encountered game-breaking bugs. Like the Zeramin, the thing was the endless elevator, basically ruining your ability to farm. And we didn't have anything like that where it was like every other time you were encountering it. So overall, solid update. We do have a little, because we are in the middle of a clan event. There is a small bit of abuse that's going on that I've run into. Because it requires the enemy, the main boss, right? The fragmented one. A single player can force a bounty group that's running the assassination mission, can force them to run the 60 eyes, when the group just wants, the other 3 people just want to run the 30. And that's literally probably the biggest issue. That's honestly, that's probably the biggest issue. And I mean, for me, it's kind of funny. I know it's a little mean, but seeing the new players that rushed content probably the feather in the hat of the argument against paid skips. But I have encountered a couple of new players, not many, but I've seen a couple that are trying to fight the Angel on the rank 5 assassination when it comes up like that as a bounty, are trying to fight the Angel. And I remember that happening with their moat amps. And I remember that happening in the Zeramin. And it's kind of a, hey, you need to make sure that people do specific areas because they're going to rush. This isn't World of Warcraft. You can't get to Whispers in the Wall and it replaces all of your equipment. This game relies on modding. I mean, it's funny because it's happened so much, but it's sad and it ruins that player's experience. In terms of modding, we've gotten several times stronger. The new Tau Shard system, or the Tau Shard combination system. I forget what its name is. So we have a couple new Taus, and it's basically the next power creep. It's the next new power system. Shards offered before, fairly simple and straightforward buffs, where it's like, strength, duration, improved efficiency, or improved pickup on energy or health. Pretty basic stuff. Now you can basically replace an additional mod. Equilibrium can be moved onto the sharding system. So it's another level of power creep by virtue of removing a maybe required mod. If you run enough shards that provide the equilibrium effect, you can sometimes remove flow, but you can definitely run, or you can definitely get rid of equilibrium if you at least run 2. Sometimes, in some cases, 1. Like I'm probably going to do that on Neja instead of running equilibrium on the frame. Just by virtue of the fact that there are so many health orbs that drop due to the Reaping Chakram augment. Electricity damage is probably in its best spot that it's ever been in. And not only that, it's sort of enjoying its moment in the sun due to the faction, the Murmur. Was kind of fun with the new faction being having the weaknesses that it did. Was kind of a fuck you to the community. I thought it was funny. But once everybody figured out the modding, the enjoyment definitely went up for everybody. As far as like a tier list, I'm probably never gonna do a traditional tier list. It's like a popcorn video. I just don't talk about things like that. No preference. Listen, I watch tier lists. Like Kai came out with one. I watched it. Obviously wanted to see where my boy Nezher lied. He got an A-. Feels bad. But it's just they're so subjective. I would prefer something along the lines of like for each mission type, right? But obviously that would require me making a tier list. Obviously I can't make a comment about what somebody else does video wise because it's their video, right? But the simple fact is there's no frame that can't do a mission type. And that's basically all there is to it. Specific frames are better at specific mission types. In my position, because I have everything, I just take the frame that's the best for that mission type. And that's about it. Right? So, if you are trying to use like a single frame, like right now I'm playing a lot of Gyre, but if you're trying to have a single frame, that could be a little bit more difficult, because obviously specific frames are better at different things. Like Gyre's sort of having like her moment right now. A lot to do with the new shards. We got a couple new primed mods, primed redirection and primed electricity for the pistol. Basically, the only interaction that you really need to be cognizant of with the new pistol mod is that if you were running like a gas electric build, you can basically run dual 60/60s for gas and still maintain an electricity weighting. That's about it. Other than that, it's, the same modding principles. But overall, we had a really good year. Obviously, there's specific issues because there's new types of monetization that have been introduced. Obviously, there's the heirloom pack, which is our first big experience with with FOMO. People are obviously going to bring up the founders packs, but it's pretty easy to counter that with 2 real arguments. How many people actually had the chance to buy the founders pack? Like, the game was so small then. And how many of those people played a day, right? Warframe wasn't cross-platform then. The community. We also got cross-play, cross-trade, and account merging. So the overall number of players you can run into is way, way, way bigger. PC has been trending up in terms of player population, so the game is in probably its healthiest state in terms of the number of players playing together. There was a bit of adjustment getting used to the other group's play styles because I'm on PC, if it isn't obvious. Like, I remember, what was it, when the numbers, when people were trying to recruit, they were saying like, oh, plug in this number or something like that, and it had to deal with like a console specific command. It was kind of funny, obviously, learning to get stuff together. Uh, and hopefully some of them got keyboards. Obviously, that would be easier on us in order to talk to them. But overall, just growing pains and little funny interactions where people are having to learn each other. But every frame is capable of doing everything. The current releases are good. Obviously, okay, so the monetization, we've had some doozies, and it's probably the big stain, as big as it is. And I mean, like, it's a tiny issue, but like you can see the Tencent influence. Um, Heavily time gated content or attempt gated. We've had time gated content before, where it dealt with like the number of runs. Like obviously the Archon hunt is the biggest issue, or the biggest example, not biggest issue. Say call runs. But even then, that's not that big of an issue. So like, what would you have like Steinax? Steinax used to be like the longest frame to farm, and it was because of time gating. Varuna wasn't bad. You could probably knock that out. We had mirror defense. Wasn't a big deal. Obviously, it was a bit of a grind, but if you could burn through the entire mirror defense thing in like a weekend, and a couple people in the clan and alliance did that. They just formed a group and just power farmed through it. So the higher end players, the more dedicated players, or the people with just more free time weren't limited, and we're starting to see a cap on what active players can do. And I'm sort of experiencing that now. I have another video uploading right now where I'm talking about the 5 Netracell runs, where it's basically regardless of how much you enjoy the game, you don't get to enjoy that content anymore. So we're starting to see weird monetization, Warframe wise, like the melee arcane adapters are purchasable. Let's see, Quasis doesn't have it, I don't think. Yeah, the melee arcane adapters. Oh, we also got Tenogen, or not Tenogen, Tenokai. Requires an Exilus weapon adapter. Start picking those gold parts, or those gold drops from your relics, right? When you're running the Kuva relics, the Requiem relics, right? So make sure to start picking those. Generally, those have been like the ignored gold drop, but those help out here. But you can buy them now. Now the Exilus weapon adapter, that's par for the course. You've always been able to do that, but you haven't been able to buy arcane slots before. And there's no real limit on the number of primary and secondary adapters you can get, because you can hard farm the Steel Essence and you just turn them in. But I can only get a melee arcane adapter like every 2 days, give or take, because they're 50,000 rep from the new faction. And obviously, right now I'm limited to 32.5 because I'm LR3. So basically, every 2 days, I get to try a new melee, or I get to use a new melee arcane adapter on a weapon. So that's slowing down build times. It's encouraging you to spend 20 plat at a time. It got me a couple times because I wanted to try out a build, but I've basically been using the Prisma Oma. We also have Riven ciphers that are purchasable. And that's new. That used to be a Steel Path, a Teshin store thing. And you can buy these now for 20p. Because I don't know about you guys, but what I would do is I would buy one every week at Teshin, store them up whenever a weapon would come out for content or something like that. And I had a bunch of Veiled Rivens piled up. I'd burn through all of them. I think that was the general consensus for the community. But the ease of just clicking to try to unlock a bunch of Rivens feels like it's obviously not full-on gacha, but it feels like they're starting to set up things that would introduce a gacha system. I don't think they're going to go full gacha, but the fact is like the ability to just spend your way through an issue, where before it would just be forma, right? Forma and slots was the big thing, but now there's like stuff that if you've got thousands of plat, you can just throw plat at the problem, and plat is able to solve a bunch of stuff that maybe it shouldn't. Obviously, that's a video for another time. Thank you. Oh, and Order's got new voice lines. But overall, the game is getting better. There's some pretty nasty things, obviously. Like, I don't like the idea of being able to buy arcane adapters. And they really shouldn't be limited. There should be another location to get to them. And two, out of convenience for me, because I've got a couple hundred weapons. Oh, it's going to take years to farm properly to get the melee arcane adapters. Probably need to do something about that. So it is what it is. But overall, the game's in a good spot. They're starting to introduce some negatives, but overall, it's been a positive. If you're a free-to-play player, you're looking at the best game you've probably ever been able to play in terms of Warframe. If you are like hardcore free-to-play, it's just an overall positive. Most of the issues are on players that spend. Like, there are things where it's like it's toxic. We're starting to get toxic monetization. Very, very light forms of it. Obviously, they're not going to hit us with something hard. Like, plus 800% value on a bundle. Like, that's... Like, they tried that on consoles with plat, where you get bonus plat instead of a discount. 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. I can't wait for something like that. Like, it'll truly be the downfall of Warframe if it happens. It's like, oh, 300% plat value on this bundle. Oh, 700% plat value. It's like, okay. Oh, Warframe Mobile, Android, I think is in beta right now. I know I signed up for it. I didn't get into it. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. The year was an overall positive. The negatives are not too invasive, but this could also be the start of, like, the metaphor with the frog, right? Being cooked. If you try to put a frog in like a boiling pot of water, it'll jump out. If you put a frog in cold water and then slowly heat it up, it'll die, right? Like a metaphor. We don't know if the temperature is going up or not. Because obviously I was hoping that they might change their style of questing to where it's more replayable content. And instead, they added a 5-week max on the one mission that I actually need to do to progress anything in the game. So clearly not going that direction. One of the bigger negatives that sort of impact all players is there is starting to get a lot of shit that has like one time a week to do it. Like, say, Circuit, right? I've been enjoying the one big run a week for Circuit. Just whenever I get like a good frame or a good primary and secondary or something like that, just whatever allows me to do a level cap in Circuit casually. Whenever I see that, so I'll just check it throughout the week. And whenever it happens, I'll just do the level cap. And it takes like 2 hours. Maybe like an hour and a half. I forget what it is exactly. But it's like 30-something levels. Or 30-something rounds to max out your standing in one go. And the only thing that I need to do now is get Rivens and Kuva, right? Like, maybe I could double up on like a Incarnon adapter, right? But there's all this stuff where it has like a big benefit one time a week, and then there isn't too much of a purpose now for me to run it. And that's gotten pretty heavy. where it's like the call missions, you do them once a week. The Archon Hunt, you do it once a week. Circuit, you do it once a week. Netrocell, you do it once a week. Well, that's an entire day. If you sit down and play the entire game, or if you knock it out all at one time, that's basically an entire day of playing. If you game for like 4 or 5 hours. But if you've got like an hour a day or an hour every 2 days to play Warframe, you can't even keep up with the time-gated stuff because there's so many things you need to do. So obviously the choices, I mean, it's pretty point blank. There's something you're just not going to be doing. But there's that because it resets, like there's no way to reset it or to make consistent progress. That's what I mean. Like say with the circuit, like if it was something where it's like there's 100 levels of circuit, okay? And every 5 levels or every 5 ranks, not like rounds or anything, but every 5 ranks, because in order to get all the rewards before you go into like the loot table, you need to get 10 ranks, right? If they had just made it 100 ranks, but you could unlock everything except for like all of the arcanes to where you need to finish off, so you can get all of the incarnons, and then all they would have to do is just change out the 100 every now and then. That would allow people to make consistent progress. You wouldn't have fear of missing out on like a good week. Say you got stuff at work going on. And then you could just make like consistent progress on what your drops are. Something like that would help. But if you miss a Incarnon week, like say you're a new player, what is it, a month and a half before that swings back around? There's stuff like that popping up into Warframe now. And it's probably the biggest ding on the gameplay style, is that there's stuff where it's like in each week, if you want to do all of your weeklies, each week, you're looking at a much, much bigger time investment, minimum, to be able to do all of your weeklies. So like if you do like your Iatan hunt for Maruz, you do Clem, you do Circuit, you do Nightwave, you do your Archon hunt, you do your Sortie, you do your Netrocells now. You're talking 5-6 hours for like the median time for all of that. Like Clem is time that you have to spend in a really easy survival. The Iatan's really quick. I still do it once a week because it's like what, 2-3 minutes maybe. The Netrocells you can speed up. Circuit just takes as long as whatever it is. Like if you get like a bunch of survivals, well, it's going to take longer. If you get like exterminates or something, then it's going to be faster. So it depends on what your rounds are. Like defense, you can speed up a little bit, but it is what it is, right? So the minimum in order to complete all of your stuff, when Warframe before, except for the Sortie, it would roll over at noon. For me, it's noon, because it depends on your time zone, right? It would roll over once a day, so you would just do it when you could. But the Sortie depends on the missions. If it's like a survival or something, then obviously it's, gated to be a little longer. But anyway, back to the point. We're ending up with if you're a player in the middle of your MRs, like it simplifies a lot for me personally, because I'm the rank that I'm at. So there's stuff I just don't need to do anymore. But if you're a new player, there's a lot of shit you gotta do. If you're like MR 16, 22 and you're still forming stuff up and you're still building, there is a lot of shit for you to do. And then you got the Kuva Tenant weapon farm. Like that's almost a half year on its own, right? To be able to max all of those. So if you're a new player, there is a lot of shit you gotta do before you even make progress if you're trying to make sure you maximize your weeklies. So it is what it is. Maybe this is the new direction. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's just I've noticed that over this year we have really been hammered with stuff that you specifically are gated on when you can even attempt it. And maybe they'll do, like, obviously it wouldn't be appropriate on the Netra cells, but like the circuit, just like every 5 levels you get an arcane adapter, and they just turn it into like a battle pass equivalent where there's like 100 levels, you just knock it out, and you can get all of them regardless of the rotation, because the rotation thing's dumb. There's no way to defend the rotation thing when it's like evergreen content. Like your first time doing the circuit, you should get like 100 levels that you can go through, and you get all of the Incarnons, or whatever it works out to. So it's like 10 each week for 2 Incarnons. There's 5 rotations, so like 50 levels right now, right? So people can get through the content or make progress and guarantee that they get all the adapters. Because having the rotation thing, that's can be frustrating if there's like one that you want, right? So it is what it is. Maybe this is the new direction. I hope not, but maybe it is. But that's probably the biggest negative, honestly. Even over the monetization is just the sheer amount of shit that we have to do each week now. Like, it's literally, if I were to sit down on like a weekday, it would take me like 2 to 3 days out of the week just to knock everything out if I only have like an hour or two to play each day. It's most of my week knocking the weeklies out, and I think that's a bit excessive. And I don't even regularly do the circuit unless I get like a good roll on what my stuff is. But that's probably the biggest negative, and hopefully they deal with something like that. And for the love of God, fix the Nitro Cell drops. Every player, that's why everybody's talking about it, is because earlier this week, people started regularly hitting rank 5. And the arcanes are maxed out. Like all of my arcanes are maxed, except for the 2 new legendaries. And it's going to take me like 58 weeks to max those out if I get the intended large number average drop rate. And that's a bit much. So it is what it is. Good overall. Some mild negatives. Monetization, a suspect. The gating. Honestly, throw that shit in the trash. Figure out another way to do it. So if I have like a really heavy day to where I have like an afternoon off and I can put like 5-6 hours into Warframe, I need to be able to make progress somewhere. It's been one of the hallmarks of Warframe, is that as you're progressing through the game, you can basically stop and everything will be there waiting for you. So it's like if you take like a 6-month break from Warframe, you should be able to pick up right where you were. Because let's be honest, this is one of the few, like I still don't know how this is counted as an MMO, but this is counted as an MMO, right? This is an MMO that you can finish, right? And that should be like the only justified time game design wise for taking a break. There shouldn't be something else where it's like you can't make progress. And we're starting to see stuff where it's like a random gate, like a limited number of runs that you can do that prevents you from making progress. Like if right now, what I should be doing is farming shards from the Netra cells and getting those 2 legendary arcanes. I should just be running that mission over and over and over and just grinding it out. But I literally can't. I get like the first couple of times I half-assed it going through it just because it was like so new. I was making sure to get all the Vocas and everything. Well, I don't need standing anymore. I don't need the other arcanes anymore. They're all rank 5. I don't need, like, I need melee adapters. And that's about it. And I need 1 more sigil. So I need enough standing to be able to do that. But that's not priority stuff. The melee adapter is, so I'm going to be making sure to max standing every day. But I should be grinding that, and I literally can't because the game wants me to do something else, except I've done everything else, and now I can't make progress in the game. So even if there was like another mission where it had like a 1% drop rate on specific things, I could literally just grind it over and over, and I wouldn't mind doing it. It'd be kind of fun. You get in a Discord call with a couple of people, do a level cap, right? Make it a defense mission like the mirror defense. I'll do that. But that's me, though. So, it is what it is. I guess this is the new game design. we'll all have to deal with it. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. This was just sort of a rant, year in review. Everything's broken, the world is on fire, and the game's fine. It's Warframe. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Later. And Happy New Year.